This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
This is the Limitless Keith Lee, and I'm here to ask you to stop what you're doing, take just one moment, and bask in the glory of the Busted Wide Open podcast. Mwah.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open podcast, but if this is your first time joining us, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 69.
69, dude. Wild Stallions.
I'm Nick Howell.
And sitting over here, still in a rest hold, I am Sir Ian Dangerous. Yes. We just watched Backlash.
We did.
The WWE pay-per-view Backlash 2018. Oh, what a stinker.
It was not very good. There were some highlights, as there always are, if you look at them individually.
Bright spots, if you're an optimist and you can find the few drops of water in the mostly empty glass.
Oh, if I am anything, I am ever the optimist, Sir Ian Dangerous. You know this by now. But yeah, this was, there's becoming this trend of sorts of these sub pay-per-views that every now and then one surprises us, but we've almost come to expect that they're just going to be meh.
Well, we anticipate usually that the B or C level pay-per-views are not going to be good, and we're always surprised, and pleasantly so, when they are. Backlash, we could sit here and list all the reasons why Backlash was coming out of the gate limping to begin with, whether or not it was the immediate proximity to WrestleMania, the forcing of the Greatest Royal Rumble into the middle of the build for Backlash, and then having just 1 week to really build for Backlash, and only having a couple of matches with any real story involved. But there's a lot of reasons we could say that this is now it's their first co-branded pay-per-view, and they didn't really have any reason for it to be cross-brand because they're still having fallout from the Superstar shakeup. There was a lot of things that definitely had hamstrung this pay-per-view even before it began. But unfortunately, even it couldn't get out the gate no matter what.
At least Jinder Mahal didn't walk away with the WWE Championship again. That's all I'll say.
Well, yes.
We had nowhere to go from Backlash to Backlash year over year.
That's true.
But up.
We didn't have Shinsegae Nakamura versus Dolph Ziggler again. But no, we found even more things that were bad this year. So. Yeah. Again, there were some bright spots, and we will have to spend this show finding them, and we'll have to talk about where we go from here, and hopefully there's some good things. But I definitely despair about some angles. I'm going to throw that out there right now. Let's get right into this. Talk about the pre-show first, then we're going to talk about the main show, and at the end we have some listener comments that we want to discuss. If you do want to get in with the show and get some comments or some questions that you want us to address and or answer, head on over to our Facebook discussion group, Busted Wide Open on Facebook. And see us there and add yourself to the discussion.
Yeah, come and join the group. We'll definitely get you in there. There's lots of memes and fun talk and chat, and we post polls and all kinds of fun stuff all the time, as well as these episodes and any other content we produce for YouTube, which we have a YouTube channel now.
That's right.
Head over to YouTube and you can subscribe to us there, and there may be some hints as to where we're going to be taking this show buried in some of these actions that we're doing by starting these things up.
We're gonna have our annual show, our first anniversary show coming up very soon, and on that show we will be discussing a lot of the things that we are going to start doing in phase 2 of the Busted Wide Open podcast.
What's phase 2?
The second year of Busted Wide Open, and there's a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pike for this show that we have been setting up for everyone out there. So I am excited to talk about that. We obviously, the plans are still, plans may change.
Yes.
As Meltzer would say.
Subject to change, hashtag disclaimer.
Yeah. So we will discuss that in about a week or so and we'll have been doing this for a year.
Things are going to be in flux over the course of the next month. So bear with us. Follow us on Twitter at BWO Podcast. Come subscribe to the new YouTube channel. You can find us just by searching for Busted Wide Open on YouTube. And Patreon, we've got that going. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But let's get right into it, Ian. Let's talk about the pre-show because some interesting things went down, but didn't really go anywhere.
Well, we had the capping off of one storyline and the really just kind of circling the drain of another storyline where the Miz Taraj finally officially broke up with Miz. And told him they don't want to be the second string guys anymore. And so Miz was going out alone. He wanted to get the band back together because it was a co-branded pay-per-view. And Mr. Raj was basically like, no, we're good. We're going to go back to being enhancement talent without having a main event guy on our side, which, great business decision, guys.
Yeah,
good times. We also had Bayley and Sasha have a little confrontation backstage. Very high school girl, you didn't call me, you didn't answer my text messages, so I don't want to be your friend, and you left me out there for the Riot Squad to beat up, so I'm not going to come help you tonight. And
Bayley continues to just get buried, in my opinion.
Yeah, she lost
is Rusev Day.
She lost.
At least Rusev Day got some shine.
At least Rusev was over.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's any hope left for Bayley at this point. I'm almost cashing out on Bayley.
The unfortunate thing is, kind of the last hope for her was a really good feud with Sasha Banks, and so far. And again, I don't want to say it before it's really gotten going, but I'm nervous about it right now because so far it feels to me like they're bungling this feud. It's getting to the point now where they're having plot points or continuations of it where they're saying, oh, by the way, don't forget, Bayley and Sasha, no, they don't like each other too much. These ladies had physicality, like a beatdown before WrestleMania against each other.
I do Elimination Chamber with them kicking each other off the chamber.
Sure, but I mean, they literally had a beatdown on each other in the backstage, I think a week or two after that.
Yeah.
And then just, it's on hold. It's still on hold. And Bayley's coming out and getting beaten by Ruby Riott with the Riot Squad interfering on the pre-show. And this is just the same holding pattern we've had for a few months now with this feud. It needs to go somewhere, and it needs to do it now. And luckily, the only thing I can think is that they were waiting to get through Backlash to light the fire on this, because now we have a lot of other pieces set up on Monday in the women's division, and these two can go and they can build a feud. I don't believe it's too late, but it's almost too late.
It is.
It's
I'm going to compare it to the broken gimmick. It's almost too late for this to mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm scared of that.
That plane got real close to crashing. Yep. And I can't officially say that they've pulled up out of the dive yet on the broken gimmick, but that definitely got held on for too long for reasons outside of their control. If this crashes, if the Bayley-Sasha feud on the main roster, it is all their fault.
Totally.
It is all their fault, and I am very nervous. That being said, we have to go talk about the main show now. So we're on the main show, and it opened the night in what was the match of the night, and a solid match on any pay-per-view, The Miz versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title.
I want to ask the question because is The Miz an underrated wrestler? Because I constantly think about this when it comes to The Miz. He's great on the mic. He has great presence, but he's always been kind of looked at as not that good of a ring worker. I think I always questioned that. I'll openly admit that I was one of those. This match showed me that he absolutely is. And it kind of sold me and pushed me over that little hump that I needed to get over.
I mean, part of it is the fact that Seth Rollins is on a tear right now.
Yeah,
that guy just cannot work a bad match these days. He is firing on all cylinders. No matter what he's doing, he's putting out great matches and great spots. Yeah, big time. He's super over. People are loving him right now because his work rate is so good, and he's going out there and killing it every night. And so part of that is Seth elevating Miz, I think, here, because Miz does not exactly have a deep move set. You know what I mean? He's got his moves that work, but what Miz has gotten good at is telling a story. And if you put him with someone in there like Seth Rollins, he can absolutely tell the story that you want. Look at him and Dolph Ziggler. You know what I mean? The two of them, when they put together a good story, you're not going to see a technical masterpiece, but what you're going to see is a really well-told match, and it's going to get you excited. And that's what happened here with multiple false finishes, and you had Seth busting his knee on the ring post. You had him wriggling out of a whole bunch of skull-crushing finales. You had him take 2 skull-crushing finales. Eventually, Miz, his knee gave out, which was, again, great continuity and storytelling in this match. His knee gives out. Miz gets him in a skull-crushing finale. Seth kicks out. He kicks out of the second one, which I thought Miz had him on that one.
Well, there was a whole sequence as well of figure fours and rolling them and reversing them back and forth.
Miz immediately going after
part of the
leg, and I like the fact that they've made it so that Miz, and this has been how it has been for a while with Miz, where he's always trying to get out of matches. He's a coward, and for the most part, once you put him in a match, he can actually toe to toe most guys.
Yeah,
he'll lose at the end, but he can go toe to toe. He's a very wily guy, and he can. He'll attack, if you injure your leg, he'll attack your leg right away. They've done a good job as building him as being somewhat legitimate. But in this match, I was questioning having his finishing move get kicked out of twice. It does really weaken that move, which for a while there was putting away some big guys. So I question having them legit kick out of the move twice. I thought maybe like a rope break would be a good for one of them. I'm nitpicking here because it was a really good match.
Yeah.
Seth ends up catching the stomp on him, and he goes down 1, 2, 3 just on one stomp.
Which was interesting part of the story of the match with his bad knee. After hitting the ring post, he couldn't really land the stomp, or he couldn't get up in the air or whatever it was. I love that whole...
Yeah.
That's what made... The story of the match is what made this match so good.
And it was a very exciting match. It was timed well. Both guys did their part perfectly. Yeah. Seth picks up the win, and that was the last really good thing on the show.
Off the back of what you were just saying about Miz and that, the one little nitpick question I still have for him is for about the last... it's been a long time, many years. We've known Miz always having a sidekick. I don't remember the last time that he had a long run as a singles competitor without somebody, Mizdow, Maurice, the Miztourage over the past year or so. So at a certain point, I'm anxious. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I still have that one little thing in my head is like, can he work on his own as a singles competitor without being that chicken shit heel that has somebody interfering?
It has a goon.
Has a goon. Exactly. That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And it will be interesting because my favorite run there was him and Maurice. I thought the two of them were...
I can't wait for her to
dynamite. Well, she's
and I'm wondering if that is part of excusing the Miztourage to eventually get her back in later this year.
Eventually, but she's still busy being mommy, and she's going to be for a while because the kid, she just had a kid, dude. It's going to be a minute.
It's been a month.
But that being said, I'd love to see the Miz on his own. That being said, if they find another goon for him on SmackDown, I wouldn't be mad at that. He elevates every goon he's with. You know what I mean? Look what he did to Sandow. Yeah. So, and look what Sandow's done since. Just saying. That being said, that was the exciting match of the show. The next match the audience was pretty dead for, probably because they were just so worked from that first match, and were not excited about the second match. That being said, that is not the talking point of the second match. The second match was Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship, and I'm going to step aside here. I'm
cracking my knuckles.
I know you're getting ready here, so
I'm warming up.
I'm gonna set this up for you, Nick. I'm gonna set your table here, because Nick is about to go off, ladies and gentlemen. I can feel it. I can feel it from here, because we had a fairly hard hitting match where Alexa Bliss basically tried every way she could to take down Nia, but Nia just ended up overpowering her because she's Nia frickin' Jax.
One way to put it.
Alexa hit a lot of strong kicks. She would drop her head into the ring steps outside and all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, Nia catches her in a Samoan drop. Boom, 1, 2, 3, end of match. But here's the talking point: is that there's two talking points really. There's one we have to get to first. We're going to talk about the speech that Nia gave after the match in a second. But first, we have to give the floor to Nick here, because Nick, for months and months and months now, has been telling us that Nia Jax is an unsafe worker. And it appeared to have come true in this match, because Alexa injured her shoulder. WWE reported after this match that Alexa Bliss had injured her shoulder in this match, probably on the Samoan drop, although it wasn't exactly apparent where. But as of the finish of this match, it seemed like Nia Jax had injured Alexa Bliss. And with that, Nick, I give the floor to you.
Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, now Alexa Bliss. The Beals, these throws, these where she's whipping around like she's ragdolling these other, 120, 130 pound superstars that just cannot be in that. That's what's unsafe about it. Samoan drops, I'm fine with. The one that she did off the top ropes at WrestleMania, arguably questionable, the way that Alexa came down, but I more put that on Alexa than Nia Jax, to be fair. But where Nyah is unsafe is the ragdolling that she does in her Beals. And she did one thing where she grabbed one foot and one arm and just spun her around and slung her and just whipped her around. I have never seen that before in a wrestling match. And it's like what a pit bull would do to a kid if they just got a hold of him and started whipping him around, right? There's no call for that. It's unnecessary. That is why she's getting hurt. She's hurting people. She's throwing these girls around that can't recover. How are you going to land in midair when you're upside down the right way if you don't get thrown properly?
Are you talking about the one from the top rope where she grabbed her arms and whipped her on the ground from the top rope?
I don't know. No, it wasn't that one. It was the one where she grabbed one leg and one arm.
That was a horizontal swing.
And spun her around and just threw her, across the ring into the ropes. It's very hard to land from that. It's very hard to do that safely. Beals, if done great, look great, and if they're sold great, they're fine. But I think she's either doesn't understand her own strength and is overdoing it because the girls are landing very poorly. And we've seen several instances of this now. The question that really comes up here is how injured? Was she injured before? Is this an aggravation of a previous injury? I don't really know. But the bottom line for me is I feel justified in saying that finally this is coming to light. It's being tossed back and forth about whether it's real or not. That's fine. But I still hold my position that I don't like Nyah working with look at the difference between Braun Strowman and some of these smaller jobbers that he's power slamming. There is extreme care put into cradling the neck, all of this stuff into the big moves where this 400-pound man is crushing these little 180-pound dudes. That care is not being given to the women competitors that are facing Nia Jax. That's my big concern. And here it is, the fourth woman, I believe, in a year that she is quote-unquote responsible for injuring. End rant.
Okay, well then allow me to retort because there's a number of things I wanted to address about what you just said. For one thing, the quote-unquote injuries that she has caused, none of them have taken people out for more than, let's say, like with Bayley, I think was the worst one with a shoulder injury, where frankly Bayley came down weird and she was out for maybe a month or so. It wasn't that long. I'm not really sure what exact injuries you're referring to with the other ones. There were, whether they're botches or not. The other thing is that you can't really tell from where we're sitting on the couch if what her moves are doing are actually unsafe. That's up to the wrestlers that's in the ring. And if she was actually working unsafe, they would tell her to stop using those moves. If they were saying, don't really feel safe with those moves, or someone in the back said that's not really a safe way of doing that move, it would be addressed because that's millions of dollars of WWE's responsibility that they have there to do. Another point is, as far as being a quote-unquote unsafe worker, you've been ragging on Nyah for pretty much the length of this show, the entire time we've been doing this show. Would you consider yourself a fan of Seth Rollins? Samoa Joe?
Samoa Joe, yes.
Samoa Joe, who ended Tyson Kidd's career with a botched muscle buster. Sure. Ended his career. Nyah hasn't even come close to that. His first night on the main roster, he busted Seth's leg, had him out for a few months, and also almost made him miss WrestleMania. But you're a Samoa Joe fan. You never talk about how unsafe he is. But with Seth Rollins, he broke John Cena's nose. He tore Finn Balor's labrum, throwing him against the barricade. He ended Sting's career with a buckle bomb. We don't talk about Seth Rollins being unsafe. We just talk about him being a great worker. So where's the disparity here? Nyah barely injures a couple of people, and you think she's an unsafe worker because she's ragdolling people, much the same way that Braun Strowman does. I remember a match against jobbers that he had. It was a 3-on-1 match right when he came to, I believe it was Raw. It was shortly after his first match with Ellsworth, and some of the tosses he gave to those guys did not look safe to me. But again, it's not my place to determine what is, quote, safe and what is not. That's up to them because I'm not in the ring. So at a certain point, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the wrestlers that are in that ring. And finally, when you're talking about this, you can't believe that she was injured. You're not sure if it was an injury from before or from after. I still say this is a work. Now, we're recording this on Tuesday. We wanted to record this earlier, but I had an extra shift, life, exactly, with work and whatnot. Here we are, Tuesday, talking about this, and the first thing that was texted out this morning was Nia Jax texting out that Alexa is perfectly fine. Now, WWE.com said that Alexa had a shoulder injury, but didn't have any more details than that.
That she sustained during the match with Nia Jax.
Okay. And WWE.com is not a reliable source.
Understand that.
They also said Braun Strowman was going to be out for 6 months with an injury, and he was back in 3 weeks. So Nyah texted out, and of course, take it for what it's worth. Could be kayfabe as well. Alexa's perfectly fine. She couldn't beat me in the ring, so she blamed it on a fake injury. Trust me, she's perfectly fine. She's scheduled to be on tour, so you and all your troll friends can come worship your coward goddess. Apparently, she heard what you were going to say, Nick.
Apparently, she read my mind.
She read your mind.
I did see that also Alexa Bliss kind of retweeted that and said with some emojis or something like that shortly, a little bit ago. So it's the funny.
So this could be. Well, the point is, it could be a work. It could be a pre-existing injury that they're making a work to have happen in the match to feed into the whole bullying thing that Alexa is pulling against Nyah right now. My point is that to overreact and go, my Alexa Bliss, my Nia Jax.
That's not what I'm doing.
That's it. But to every time that there's even a hint, a whiff of Nyah being unsafe, you pounce on it like a cat on catnip.
Of course I do, because every time she throws one of those girls in a Beal across the ring, it's one of those, I cringe. I go, oh, is this going to be the time where she breaks Mickie James? Is this going to be the time where she breaks Bayley?
Every time Seth throws the knee at somebody and it looks like crap, I go, yeah, well, there but for the break of a nose, you know what I mean? Like, this is the thing, it's a dangerous activity, this professional wrestling. And to me, Nyah, with her size...
It's all fake, I thought.
Don't use the F word. But, this is the thing. That is what she can do because she is that size. If she's doing it in a way that is effective and not unsafe, then they're not going to stop her from doing it. You know what I mean? If she's doing it properly, if what they consider in the back and the people that are in the ring with her, if she's doing it properly, they're not going to stop her from doing it.
I'm fine with girl doing the Samoa drops. They look devastating, that especially with someone as small as Alexa is, and she just looks that much monstrous doing them. It makes it that much more devastating, akin to Braun and the little guys.
Yeah, and I mean, it is scary to watch her in a match with Alexa because of the size disparity and the fact that it is so easy for her to manhandle Alexa.
But the Beals and the whipping around carelessly.
But that looks
that's
great.
Where
I didn't
cringe.
feel careless to me. It felt like a wrestling move.
Okay.
And overall, I thought this was, in general, a well-worked match. That being, from my perspective, you're giving me the look.
I liked Alexa being the buzzing bee, just kind of running around trying to sting her, and her just being
and
like she couldn't figure it out.
That top rope move I was talking about, where Nyah grabs her arms and basically just flips her over her head onto the ground. In slow motion, you could tell how safely that move was done, but it looked devastating at full speed at the time. Yeah. So Nyah took a bump to the outside that looked great. At the end of the day, though, as we predicted, let's move on from the grouse session here.
Yes, I got out what I needed.
You got out what you need to get out. I got out my rebuttal. We'll agree. We'll continue to agree to disagree. This will be an ongoing thing. Is you Nyah bashing and me coming in here to I don't know, to defend.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Tell you you're wrong. But at the end of the match, Nyah does pick up the victory on a Samoan drop that may or may not have injured Alexa Bliss. But then afterwards, we got to talk about this other point, is that Nyah gave this speech after this match that was the cringiest damn thing I've seen, since Saudi Arabia. But it was still, it was so scripted, where she was saying, that's right, bullies can't hurt me because I'm special, and all of you are special, and all of you can be a star, and all of you, don't ever let people judge you for who you are. Basically, this pep speech that went from being about her to being about people in the audience who are different. No. The whole thing was an anti-bullying slogan campaign.
They've latched onto this in fifth gear at this
point.
point.
Well, the problem is I didn't mind it when it was... not subtle, but it wasn't so on the nose.
Yeah.
This was so on the nose that it was just painful to watch. And then to immediately, once she was done giving this very rehearsed speech about how bullies will always get their butts kicked, the announcers immediately come on and like, so WWE's been giving thousands of dollars to the anti-bullying campaign, Be a Star. And that's right. We're so great here at WWE because we're not about bullies. Even though we had JBL on our announce team for years and years and years.
Even though half of our program is about talking smack to each other.
Yeah, right. It's about bullies, whatever. We're not going to get into the inherent hypocrisy here. It's
choose which side you want to be on.
It's
WWE.
well documented. The problem here is just the blatant propaganda and back patting that happens sometimes on WWE. That's so grating and so it takes me out of the product every time.
I'm almost numb to it at this point where I just kind of tune it out. I don't know any other way to...
3 out of 4 times I'll be like, all right, fine, whatever. But then every once in a while, something like this will come along and I'll just go, oh, screw you.
Yeah.
Screw you. Shut up. You're sitting here telling me like, oh yeah, Nyah's the picked on person when she's 270 pounds and can kick the absolute crap out of.
Exactly.
All right. Oh, whatever. If this is the way you want to tell this story, but again, it's not even the telling the story. I liked how they did it until they made it so damn obvious here, and they like you didn't need to go the extra step. We get it. We're not dumb. I mean, maybe some people that watch that show are dumb. I don't know. As George Carlin once said, think about the average person and how dumb they are, and then keep in mind that there's 50% of the population more dumb than them. All right, maybe there's some people that don't get it unless you on ahead with it, but this was just, I don't know. It was cringeworthy. It was painful to me.
Yes, it was. Well, hey, next up we had the U.S. title match between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. And this had like almost no build for it other than the couple of weeks before where they would interrupt each other's...
No heat.
No real heat at all.
This was down there with the you got rated higher on the SmackDown top 10 list than I did in terms of who gives a crap heat. It's like, okay, these guys are competitive. One interrupted the other in their entrance, and then the other one they did it back, and then that's where they're having a feud. And they kept saying, oh, they have respect for each other. It's a face versus face match essentially. And as you would expect, unless you give them a reason to, like, if you make it about the competition between the two, there's no heat here. It's kind of like Nakamura Styles at WrestleMania, which we just saw, which should have been this incredible match, but because they're both faces, there was no heat, and so no tension. And this was kind of the same way. It felt like a SmackDown Live match. Like it just was not a big deal match.
I got to go back to the Daniel Bryan run up to the championship to find any match involving Randy Orton that has any kind of heat, to be completely honest with you. I can't remember the last time I cared about a match that involved Randy Orton. In a way, it's the only reason I did back then was because he was one of the obstacles that Daniel Bryan had to get through to get to the championship at WrestleMania when Evolution came back, right? So that was I have all but completely lost interest in Randy Orton at this point. His whole thing with Jinder last year was boring as hell.
I liked the part where Jinder went after his family. That was good with the Cowboy Bob Orton in the audience.
Okay, I'll give you that.
It had moments. It had moments.
That was more of the nostalgia effect of Cowboy Bob Orton being in the audience with his big old hat on and everything, and just that was more Jinder than Randy.
But also Randy's reactions to that, like his legit heat, like that was the best part of that whole entire Jinder run, right there in an episode. Anyway, nitpicking.
Jeff ends up retaining. This really, I don't know where it goes from here. Do I care? Not yet. Not really.
This is the definition of a middle of the card match. Yeah. There was nothing to it really. Jeff retains and whoop-de-doo. I think this is the first one where our pick'ems, there was a differential because up until now we were both on the same page. This is one where you picked Randy to pick it up.
I flipped a quarter.
Right. Yeah, this was a coin flip match and I went for Jeff. So I got now I'm ahead by one in our pick'ems, but that's about the only interesting thing about this match. The next segment was, I can think of no other word for it than bizarre.
We might differ on this. I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this.
Okay, so
because in a way I checked out and I just went with it.
Okay, so Elias comes out to give another one of his quote unquote concerts, right? He references Bruce Springsteen and runs down the New Jersey crowd.
Yes. Brilliant.
Great, typical Elias, brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
This is when it starts getting weird because he keeps getting interrupted. He gets interrupted multiple times. First, New Day comes out and with like a big drum on Big E.
Band bass drum.
Yeah, exactly. And they interrupt him and say they want to play a concert with him. And he's like, no, I'm just going to go do my own thing. Gets interrupted again by Rusev Day and Aiden English singing the Rusev Day song. No idea why Rusev Day came out. They just did. They were like, I guess we're going to come out now. And then all of a sudden you had No Way Jose come out with his conga line and interrupt Elias again. And it was just this bizarre amalgamation of personalities next to the ring with Elias in there going, what the hell is going on?
It's all the different little various musical acts that are part of that roster.
Well, quote unquote musical acts.
Sure,
like, do they sing? Yes, bring them out. Is there a conga line? Bring them out.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, and this is the only thing that had any relevance, was that he goes, well, I'm going to do my concert again. And right as he goes to strum it, glorious, and Bobby Roode appears in the ring, DDTs him, jumps out, and everyone conga lines to the back, except for Rusev Day, who are like, no, we don't do that. We're not conga.
I'm glad you said that. That was my favorite part of the entire thing. Was Aiden actually started to do the conga thing, and Rusev was like,
no, what are you doing? What are you doing? No. Which might be going into the Aiden is undermining Rusev Day angle that they're kind of starting to do or there, which, no, please don't break.
I was hoping that wasn't going to be the moment.
Day.
No, don't break up Rusev Day yet. It's too soon.
No, come on. Yeah, they haven't finished burying them yet.
But otherwise, this is just to build heat for Bobby Roode and Elias.
The whole thing was a Bobby Roode Elias heat builder, and it was supposed to be fun and goofy, but Fandango came out in the conga line, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Titus Worldwide came out with No Way Jose.
Foreshadowing. That's what I mean. But it's
the end of his career early. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Well, I would love to see No Way Jose become a part of Titus Worldwide. That's just me. Just give them something. Give them something. But this was absolutely, and No Way Jose is basically Adam Rose Part 2. Like he's already dead. He's already dead. I'm sorry. They already are using him in the exact same way. It's over. It's toast. But this was absolutely. To me, I was just staring at my TV like, what the hell am I watching? What is good?
Just go with it.
Did all of these guys, they had no idea how to get these guys on this pay-per-view, so they're just like, well, we'll write you a check. Just show up for this one bit.
Yep.
That's all it was. That's all I could figure out this was. Yeah, bizarre.
Bizarro land, Michael Cole. So where does this go? Are we gonna get a long-standing feud off of these two with Bobby Roode and Elias?
Yeah,
all musical acts aside.
This was a placeholder. Let's move on. Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. Another match I wasn't terribly excited about. They had very little time to build for this, although they did base the end of the Greatest Royal Rumble on this match to try to bring some heat to it. I will say this. Cass has some heat from the crowd.
Yeah, he does.
They genuinely don't like him. And you know what?
It's borderline Roman Reigns level of hatred or vitriol.
Except he's supposed to be getting it. He's a heel.
Exactly.
Which is if you're a heel, this is good. And this was a fairly short match, and it was basically Cass dominating early and then Daniel Bryan picking up a submission victory fairly easily over Big Cass. This was my concern coming into this match is this match going to be Daniel Bryan, coming in and looking great, or is this going to be Cass getting heat by beating down Daniel Bryan? And either way, I could see positives and negatives to it. And the way that they did it, I thought ultimately was the most elegant way of doing it.
Me too.
Which was, fairly quick match. Daniel Bryan submits him because he's just a better wrestler. But then after the match, Cass beats the crap out of Daniel Bryan, stands tall, mugs to the crowd who boo the crap out of him. Daniel Bryan gets taken off injured. Great. Cool. So this will now continue. The feud will continue, but it has even more pepper on it. It's got some more heat on it.
And I think that's what I said in our preview from last week was Daniel Bryan's going to go over here because Cass is going to beat the shit out of him the whole time, sneak in a victory, and this is just going to embroil the feud even more.
Yeah. I thought this might be done here, and I think
we're going. This might all go all the way to SummerSlam. This might be Daniel Bryan's first big singles feud.
Yeah, if Cass can keep getting heat like this, and it's perfect. It's a perfect underdog story for Daniel Bryan, which is right in his wheelhouse. Honestly, I think people right now are really down on Cass, and so far, I keep waiting to get disappointed by him, and he hasn't really yet. Like, he hasn't pissed me off yet. Like, it's so far.
There's some green there, but it's workable.
But it's manageable.
Coachable, yeah.
It's coachable. It's manageable. I think that so far this is going pretty well, even though this match is ultimately going to be pretty forgettable.
Well, I pulled back because I picked Daniel Bryan, so we are back to a tie now after the U.S. title match. So neck and neck as we go into the next few ones, which were Charlotte facing off against Carmella in the SmackDown Live Women's Championship
that was
match.
my time to go on a rant.
Yeah, oh boy. Okay, so here's a question for you, just to kind of set the stage. Is it damaging to have Carmella win more or less clean?
What, damaging to have Carmella win more?
Yes.
I think it's damaging the way they did it here, which was, fairly standard match, nothing too out of the ordinary. Frankly, I thought Carmella looked pretty good. She had a little too many rest holds, I think, early in the match, kind of killed a little bit of the momentum, but I like how Carmella just shrieks all the time in rest holds. And that's her character, just grating. I think she might be taking notes from Stephanie McMahon.
Or Naito Girl. I was sitting here going, maybe Carmella has been Naito Girl all along. Oh.
That's where she's been for the last year. We might have made that joke in the last show, but I don't care. It's still funny.
Yeah, it's still funny.
But no, this was a fairly standard match. Nothing really stood out. What was bizarre for me was the finish. And that's going to be a theme of this show is the hell's up with that finish.
Okay.
This
you
match,
talking about the matchbook cover?
What?
Carmella put her up in a matchbook cover and got the 3 count.
Yeah, after Charlotte did a moonsault off the top rope, banged up her leg, which she seems to do 1 out of every 2 times she does it in kayfabe, and Carmella kicks her in the leg, takes her legs out, and for some reason, Charlotte can't kick out when her leg is busted. I don't know. This is the woman who just ended Asuka's streak. And she gets pinned clean in the ring because someone kicks her in the leg after she jacks her leg doing a dumb move that doesn't hit half the time anyway. That's the story you're going to tell me here?
I agree.
That's ridiculous. That is stupid booking.
It is stupid
It
booking.
makes Asuka look bad. It makes Charlotte look bad. It doesn't make Carmella look any better. It makes her look opportunistic, but doesn't make her great. Okay, she's opportunistic. We knew that when she cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase. This doesn't do anything good for anybody. This was dumb. Dumb.
I'm happy with the outcome that Carmella did win, and I believe we both called that. I agree that having a clean win over Charlotte like this, who has been so dominant for so long, was the wrong way to do it.
There's clean wins and there's clean wins. You know what I mean? Like you could argue, okay, yeah, it was not entirely clean, but it was. She used wrestling moves. She took advantage of a situation and won 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. No feet on the ropes, no dirty tricks, no nothing. She won straight up. And that is mind-boggling to me. Like, we've had Charlotte get beaten clean before. Fine. But to have Carmella, with how we've established Carmella's character, beat her this way, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other ways that they could have had the ending to establish that Carmella is able to hold on to her championship by any means necessary, as opposed to this. Like, I'm not a fan of run-ins, but you could have had the Iconics come in, and it would have been a better ending than this.
100% agree.
You know
I was
what I mean?
actually waiting for them to show up.
Have Carmella have a foreign object and KO Charlotte while the ref isn't looking. When was the last time you saw a good foreign object?
Thumb in the eye, rake the eye, something.
She's supposed, right. What's her submission move? It's the code of silence.
Yeah.
She's got a little like mafia thing going on there. Where are the brass knucks? Get the brass knucks out here. Something. This was terrible.
We're a PG show now. You can't have brass knuckles, but it's okay to hit people with chairs and throw them through tables.
Right, of course.
Right.
Silly me. William Regal has something to say about that. We absolutely should have brass knucks back. Anyway, yeah, I hated the finish of this match. Just I hated it way more than I hated the finish of the Asuka Charlotte match, which,
yeah,
you know, I just question how long Asuka was in the hold, not the fact that Charlotte won. This I question the whole. I don't question that Carmella won. It's just how she did it was just stupid.
Yeah, whoever booked it made some mistakes there. All right, time to talk about the one that we were really looking forward to, which was the no disqualification match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship.
And it was a damn good match.
Oh, yes, it was.
It was great.
You know, I want to say at the beginning, before we really get into this, that I was watching about 2/3 of the way, probably 10, 12 minutes into this match. I'm going, wait, why did they even do this as a no DQ? They're working this as a straight up clean match.
Yeah, we wanted
beautiful.
We wanted it to be no DQ, and it ended up, the only reason it was no DQ is because there had to be some cock knocking going on in this match at some point, and they wanted the match to continue and not have the cock knock be the end of the match, even though it was the end of the match, which we'll get into. But there was a chair at one point, which through a unhappy accident ended up causing the match to be even better, because basically the chair gets in the ring. There's a little chair work. Shinsuke goes for the Kinshasa. AJ throws the chair at him as he's running at him, and the chair ricochets off of Shinsuke's knee back into AJ's face and cuts him open on the cheek, which for the rest of the match with AJ just with a little trickle of blood off his cheek, it made the rest of the match seem even more intense.
Yeah.
Like, it probably sucked for AJ, But at the same time, for us, it was fantastic.
This match for me was a lot of fun because of all of the dynamics of the things that the two different guys were doing with each other. Just the bouncing back and forth, and each one would get some offense in, and each one. Then you had the fight forever in the middle where they were just trading
that
hits.
was at the very end. That was close to the end when they were just doing that New Japan forearm
Beautiful
stuff in the middle. And here was a match where, okay, let's consider Shinsegae a year ago when he first debuted, right? For the longest time, they were booking him as the standard WWE babyface, which is get beaten down for the first 2/3 of the match and have a comeback. That's not good for Shinsuke. That's not his wheelhouse. This is his wheelhouse, where he's the bad guy beating down the good guy for the first 2/3 of the match. And AJ is actually good at looking like he's getting beaten down and then having the comeback. He's good at that.
Yeah.
It actually plays into his wheelhouse because he looks good doing the comeback. Shinsuke looks good being a killer. And here he looked like an absolute murderer
for the whole match. Like
they were stiff. And he looked like he was having so much fun picking apart AJ in the front of this match. The dynamic. I don't always like that kind of booking when they do it because it happens too much and it's too predictable. You get used to the rhythm. But here, I thought it really worked because it's right in both of what these guys are good at.
Yeah, they're perfectly placed.
Yeah.
They're going into the right pegs.
Yeah,
So-
and this was more exciting than the WrestleMania match, also because there was more heat. You could feel that these guys were going out there like, okay, we actually hate each other now. Let's fight like we hate each other. And it did bring that extra little element to the match that it needed. The only downside was the finish, where they're both beaten up. They've both hit each other in the nuts. I thought it was a great moment where Nakamura snuck in the low blow and AJ's writhing around and sneaks in his own low blow, and they're both on the ground. The crowd loved it too. They were on their feet because that was a great, AJ got one in finally.
Yes.
And even though this feud has kind of turned into the, hey, let's hit everybody in the balls show, it's still working. It's becoming on the verge of comedy, and you're having two of the most talented guys in the world, you're reducing their feud to let's hit him in the nuts over and over and over again.
Who's the New Japan guy that does all the
Toru Yano.
Toru Yano.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a lot of...
He's comedy. That's my point. Is it's done for laughs. Like he hits people in the balls so much, it's just like, oh my God, of course he does it again.
It's kind of working though, isn't it? With the WWE universe.
It's getting to the point where they've got to move past it. It can be an element of it, but it can't be the only thing in the feud. And the finish of this match was the two of them
Rochambeauing each other.
Frankly, it was really well done in that the timing was great. It was surprising where they both run at each other. They out of nowhere, they both run each other and kick each other in the nuts at the same time. It sounds worse than it actually was. If you didn't watch the show and you're getting the recap from us, it did look better than it sounds.
Yes.
If you watched it, you know what we're talking about. The downside of it was they both lay crumpled on the ground for the 10 count.
As you would.
Well, they had
After
just
taking a
just
big
gotten
leg to
up on a 10 count after the previous time they'd cock-knocked each other. But now they cock-knock each other again, and they're down for the 10. And the audience, you can feel the air come out of the room. Just, really? That's your finish? It was a great match that, bam, suddenly the balloon got popped by the pin. And I don't know how better you could have gotten out of this match, but there had to have been a better way that didn't just... just blah.
Yep.
And obviously the feud will continue. This is not a definitive finish. There's more to come. I really do feel like it's hampering their next match now because everyone's going to be worried about this kind of finish. We need to have some conclusive finishes at some point here. But how do you escalate from a no DQ match? So
it begs the question, and it was actually, we're going to answer this in our questions later. One of our listeners brought up the question of, wouldn't this be a no DQ match if the 10 count didn't, or I have it backwards. Does the 10 count apply if you don't answer the referee's call in a no DQ situation?
So we'll get to that. That's good. We're going to talk about the fan questions at the end of the show. So stay tuned. We'll come back to that question. In the meantime, we have to go over and talk about Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Why? Why do we have to talk about it?
Because there was a little bit of a relevant story thing here where Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were not on the same page at the end of this match, started bickering, and ended up betraying each other. Kevin Owens ended up getting murdered by both Lashley and Strowman. That was literally the only point of this match, was two monsters.
To break up Kevin and Sami?
Here we go again. Didn't we just kind of see this, and then they got back together for the match at WrestleMania?
They're the worst couple ever.
I don't know what the hell they're doing with them at this point. Obviously, I am never mad at seeing Kevin and Sami fight, but the way that they've just turned them down. They've fallen so far in terms of kayfabe prestige that I'm really nervous. But I mean, Kevin Owens used to be a bona fide main eventer, and they have dialed him down to the mid card as far like in terms of prestige and how he feels when he comes out. Yeah. And I don't know if that's Sami dragging him down, which I don't want to think about, or if it's just how they've booked him and the two of them for the last 6 months.
No, it felt. I mean, you could go all the way back to the stuff with Jericho. He wasn't really in the main title picture, other than the U.S.
With Jericho, he was the champ. He was the Universal Champion.
Okay, so I was talking about the U.S. Championship where he had that back and forth, and Jericho went back and forth with those guys, right? So it has felt like he has been taken back down to, like you said, the mid card. But there's been this kind of comedy sidekick angle going on for 2 years now, at least. With him and Jericho, and now him and Zayn.
I see what you're saying.
It's where do we get Kevin Owens, the monster that showed up on Monday Night Raw with the NXT Championship and beat John Cena?
Well, where's the balance? Because he's also one of the funniest guys and the best guys in the mic in the WWE.
I agree.
And if you put him with a funny sidekick, he's going to give you gold. But the problem is it takes away from that killer persona. So which Kevin Owens do you want?
I want the killer.
Or can you somehow get the killer with still having him get some of those zinger lines?
I want apron power bombs and murdering dudes.
And he still comes out with that kind of presence where Sami will be bouncing around the stage like an idiot and Kevin will just be walking out like the silent killer. For some reason, they're not steering the boat into that. They're just letting it happen and not taking advantage of that. All I know is that this was just their opportunity to get Braun and Lashley on the show because they didn't have anything else for them because they didn't have anything else planned for them because. How about we were saying, this Backlash had no real planning coming into it.
How about Lashley holding Kevin Owens up for 27 seconds in that?
He didn't hold him up that long.
Hold? I know, I'm exaggerating, but
it was. I mean, it's Lashley. It's kind of all he has.
I know. Unfortunately,
I
like him. I just want him to. I want more.
They got to do something with him because right now he is stale bread to me.
Yeah.
And I'm
even
so
with
sad.
Braun Strowman can't save it.
No, what? I mean, come on. You had Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in the piss break match between the WWE Championship and the main event of the night, which we, I guess, have to talk about now. The main event with all of the cards on the table, huge build, and lots of things at stake. Oh, wait, that's right. None of that's true. It's just Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe for some freaking reason.
Wait, closing out the pay-per-view with no title, no stakes involved.
No title, no stakes, no nothing. It's just Roman's honor. Because he's lost 2 matches to Brock Lesnar now, and he wants to prove that he still got it. Yeah. So there's a lot that
there's a lot to unpack here.
I don't want to unpack this, Nick. This is the Christmas present where I know someone's given me a turd, and I don't want to open the package because it's just going to stink up the whole room. But I suppose we do have to open it. All right. Go ahead. Tell me, what did you think about this match?
Well, I'm going to, because I've been through extreme amounts of management training, I'm going to start with the good, okay?
Ouch.
So this is, what you start with here is one of the things that I've identified specifically in this pay-per-view is certain superstars have each other's numbers. So for the better part of a year now, I've been waiting for the Samoan feud, what I've dubbed the Samoan feud.
Well, what Paul Heyman dubbed the Samoan feud. You basically bought in what Paul Heyman was selling with that they have Samoan beef, right?
Sure. So I've been referring to it as the Samoan feud ever since.
Okay.
But Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe, I think they have a good match, especially off the back of what we saw with Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns last year. We got that next. Okay, that could be exciting. Joe got injured, unfortunately, whatever. Here we are. We finally get it back. And I'm going to be honest, as soon as this match started and Joe went in for the cheap shot and that whole sequence before the bell even rang, I was on my feet. I was excited.
It was electric.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good.
This is exactly what this needs to be.
Uranage through the announce
Dirty,
table.
nasty Samoan feud just doesn't matter. There's no stakes, just ass whipping. Yeah. That's what this needed to be. Unfortunately, that just didn't go down that path.
No, it went right into a whole ton of rest holds.
For about 15 minutes.
And if you watched it live, you got to hear the audience chant, "This is boring," Rusev Day, and
CM Punk was in there.
CM Punk, and Beat the Traffic. And you had people
hear that one.
You had people running, like a bunch of people walking out before the finish of this match.
Wow.
And there's a great moment where Joe's down doing a rest hold and the "This is boring" chant start. And he looks out the crowd and goes, what do you want from me, man? Like, he even gave a reaction face to it because it was so overwhelming. If you watched it live, if you go back and watch the WWE.com version, you hear all the times they turn the crowd down.
Yep.
And actually, that's something for this whole show. You can go back when Roman walks out, the amount of turn down on the crowd when he walks out, when that boo starts, and you can just hear it drop off. Not in the live version, they didn't catch it on that one, but on the WWE version, they are absolutely. They're now officially manipulating the crowd noise.
They have been for 2 years now with him.
It hasn't been this blatant since SmackDown Live was taped. Like this was the most I've really been able to hear the crowd being affected by their manipulation, by the sound manipulation in the longest time. Like I was just like, you got to be kidding me. They were turning down all the negative chants for this match. One thing they didn't do is change the cutaways. Like when the match finished, and Roman, of course, won
with one spear.
Lol, Roman wins.
After almost going completely out cold in the Coquina clutch.
Yeah.
Which there was a moment, there was a glimmer of hope where I thought, holy shit, since there's no stakes on the line, can Roman take the loss here to boost Joe? They could have done that.
Would have been lovely. And of course, I was going to say the cutaway after Roman wins was people just getting up out of their seats and leaving. Not cheering. They cut away to people just running out of this arena. Well, at WrestleMania, people stuck around to boo. At least for a little bit. Here, they didn't even stick around to boo. They're like, oh, thank God that's over, and left. Which is too bad because both of these guys, I thought, worked a fairly decent match with the crap booking that they were given. I thought Joe had a lot of pepper on his stuff. His stuff looked nice and snug and tight. Roman, I thought, had a good, like, if I gave a crap about Roman, which I don't because I'm so bored with Roman Reigns. If I gave a crap, I would have said, yes, he actually had a pretty good babyface fight back and had some good moves and looked good. Like we always say this, he's talented, fine. It's just the way, absolutely obnoxious way that the commentary once again shoved down our throats the Roman Reigns story of, he's beaten man, he's beaten down, he's got to get his back, but Roman never gives up because he's Roman Reigns, goal, lol. They were just slathering on Roman Reigns' balls on this one. And it was, as much as they put over that Joe is a killer, it was only to service the fact that how brave Roman is to come back from this assault by this evil Samoan bastard Joe and overcome it, which he did at the end with one frickin' spear. Boom, done.
I think this was a great look for Samoa Joe. I think he comes away from this looking aces to go heading into SmackDown Live to go after the WWE Championship.
I think if he
That's
had
the
won,
only thing.
maybe. I don't know if it entirely makes him look good, to be honest.
I agree with that, but like I was saying at the beginning of this, it was certain superstars have each other's number, and that would have been an exclamation point on this had they put Joe over with a Coquina clutch tap out. It would have just made him and that move look that much more devastating. Really, really sold it. And he could have gone on. Roman could have eaten the pin.
Too many.
Very easily here.
Absolutely. And just have the. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in a second, but I want to talk about what story they're telling with Roman right now.
Okay.
But real quick, Joe's got to go over to SmackDown and absolutely murder people with that Coquina clutch. He's because that has too many people have gotten out of that clutch lately. Like he's going to go over there and murder some fools because otherwise he's not going to be able to come out and talk tough like he has been and sound legitimate. It's going to be the Bray Wyatt thing all over again where he can talk a big game, but if you don't back it up, no one's going to believe you and it delegitimizes your character and we're going to stop caring. And I don't want to stop caring about Joe because I think he's fantastic, but they've got to let him win. And I can understand why they didn't let him win here because lol Roman Reigns, but he's got to go to SmackDown and win right away. But I want to ask you,
okay,
what story do you think they're telling right now with Roman Reigns? Because we all assumed, everyone assumed that Roman Reigns was taking that belt off of Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. We were finally going to have this Band-Aid ripped off. And Roman Reigns is champ. Great. We can move the hell on. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen at Greatest Royal Rumble. And now Brock Lesnar isn't booked for Money in the Bank, so it ain't going to happen by then.
Till SummerSlam, allegedly.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we got 3 more months.
So what story are they telling? Like, what are they telling us about Roman Reigns now?
I don't know. We're just continually going to get this week after week of this coming out story. He's going to have non-title matches until he gets his hands on. Maybe they put him in the U.S. title. No, because is that back on?
No.
I don't know where that is anymore. How do they get him into some kind of title match of some sort?
I feel like they're trying to sell us just based on how they built into the WrestleMania match with Brock being Vince's boy and then putting Reigns right back in a match with him in Jeddah, Greatest Royal Rumble. And then now, having him be like the underdog in a match against Samoa Joe when he just took how many F5s from Brock Lesnar and supposedly actually beat him in Jeddah, but the refs didn't, refs were screwy, and Vince said, no, Brock's going to win. Right? That's the story. They're trying to make Roman into Daniel Bryan. They're trying to make him the underdog who management doesn't like and have us get behind him because somehow we feel like he's getting a raw deal. And it's not going to frickin' work.
Nope.
It's not working at all. If anything, it's actually rubbing people even more the wrong way because no one sees Roman Reigns as an underdog. It's the same thing they tried to sell us with Super Cena, where they kept saying he's the underdog. And we're like, he's never tapped out and he wins every match. In what world is this man the underdog? Roman Reigns beats everyone except Brock Lesnar. In what world is he the underdog to anybody? Especially when the only reason that you're telling us he doesn't beat Brock Lesnar is because the management has it in for him. That's not a compelling story.
No.
It works with someone like Daniel Bryan, who legitimately is an underdog. But Roman Reigns is the big dog, not the underdog. So it's not going to work.
And he's 6'5", not 5'8".
Bro, that's what you don't look at Roman Reigns and think underdog.
No.
It's not what he portrays. And you can't give us these Hulk Hogan style matches where he gets beaten down, then hulks up and wins at the end because it doesn't look like the kind of guy that's going to happen with. Like this match against Joe looked like he had his number for most of the match. Then Roman comes out of nowhere, gives him one spear and wins. What that tells us is Roman has this arsenal that he can pull out at any time that will win him these matches. It doesn't tell us that he's overcoming the odds. It's telling us that Joe is a guy who got lucky for most of the match because he's just that vicious and willing to go that extra distance to put this big guy down for a while.
I don't want to talk about Roman Reigns anymore. I'm so tired of this shit.
Would you say that you are so bored with Roman Reigns?
Earlier in the show, yes, absolutely. Hashtag. We talked about them burying or the sink with Bayley and Sasha, or the ship with Bayley and Sasha sinking. That ship has sailed. I think the Roman Reigns ship has sailed, and the only people that want it is Vince McMahon anymore.
No, we've said that for years.
I cannot find anyone other than people that love his merch and the kids, call them the Cena kids, if you will, that don't understand. But I can't find anybody that enjoys a Roman Reigns match anymore.
Here's the thing: is that I can say I know people that are casuals that hate Roman Reigns. I know kids that hate Roman Reigns. Whatever. We all can find instances of this. Obviously, enough people out there like him that he does get some cheers. There were some people cheering in the stands when he won this. And at the end of the day, it's all to Vince. And we're going to be talking about this and rehashing this and in this loop about Roman Reigns until our long wrestling nightmare is finally ended. And someone just sits Vince down and goes, "Stop.
Yeah,
it's over. It's done. Let it go.
Come on, Michael P.S. Hayes. Step up.
Let it go." Michael P.S. Hayes booked this match.
I know.
He ain't helping.
But between him and he's
the ultimate yes man. Are you telling me P.S. Hayes is going to fucking step in there? Come on.
Well, okay. We both picked Roman, obviously. So what did we end up with? We
got
to go over one more thing.
Well, here's the thing. At this point, the only ones we disagreed on was Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, which I took, and Charlotte Carmella. Was Daniel Bryan and Big Cass,
right,
which you took.
Yes.
So we're even as of the end of this because we agreed on everything else.
But we did a prop bet.
Correct.
At the end of the show
we did a
last
prop
week.
bet, and I apparently, for some reason, woke up the day that we did the preview show for this and got all idealist and thought that fairy tales exist and that WWE was somehow going to do the right thing and put AJ and Nakamura on last. I don't even know why in the world I would suddenly think, hey, the tiger's going to change its stripes and the Dalmatians all of a sudden going to not fight fires. But here we are. And you said that Roman and Joe goes on last, the match that had no stakes, no build, but it's just because it's Roman. And you were right.
Because logic and accountability, right?
You were a pragmatist that day,
yes,
and I was the hopeless optimist. And I want to go back. I want to go back to last Thursday and kick myself in the ass.
So I win by 0.5 of a point.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
What a win, Nick.
Yay.
You got Roman and Joe last. Way to go, buddy.
Woo.
So that is our wrap-up of Backlash. What are your final thoughts on this show overall? Where do we go from here? What's next now?
So I was mentioning it a little bit earlier that I had this epiphany that there are certain feuds and certain superstars that have the level of in-ring chemistry where they just have each other's number. And I was really excited. I hadn't found anybody for AJ Styles up to this point until the past month or so with Nakamura.
Really? Because I think AJ was good with a lot of people. That was what got him over, was being good with a lot of people.
He works well with a lot of people, but just not like I saw AJ on the ropes.
Extra like
I saw
step.
him struggling
Okay.
in that, whether or not he was selling it. Of course he was.
It
but it
like
looked like
kayfabe.
Shinsuke Nakamura finally, like somebody had his number, because he just had him beaten down and out that whole match, had a way to get out of all that stuff. So there's an interesting thing where what I saw out of that match, those two guys, and thankfully it finally got here. It took almost a year to get Shinsuke to this point, but finally we found this sweet spot with these two guys. The other side of this match was, I thought Roman and Joe were, other than the rest holds that were just endless, but Joe being a submission specialist, I went with it. I enjoyed that match for what it was.
So what you're talking now is what you're talking about, the chemistry that some wrestlers
In-ring
have with
chemistry.
each other. Like some wrestlers just don't have any interesting, like Randy Orton and Sheamus, I always thought had no chemistry, but they kept putting them in matches. Whereas, Sheamus and Cesaro had great chemistry when they had their matches against each other before they became a tag team.
Miz and Seth is another great example of this. I didn't,
Out of nowhere they have chemistry.
Oh my God.
Or Seth and Finn Balor, who what? Dude, you cannot argue with me that their matches the last few weeks, going all the way back to the Universal title match, have been great. Every single one of the Seth Rollins Finn Balor matches have been great. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'd have to go watch them again.
Yep. I can go.
I'm just not a Finn
we can
Balor
go back
fan.
To, we
You're
can,
not gonna,
I know
you're,
you
you're
are.
never
but
going to convince
you
me
go
to be
back
a
to the
Finn Balor
shows where
fan.
we talk about this, and every one you go, yeah, it was a really good match. Because they're good. They have great chemistry.
That's
I think
a pretty good impression of me, too, by the way.
Thank you. Been working on it. I need a bigger beard, but then I'll get it 100%. But this is my point, is that you're talking about people who have chemistry together.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see bad matches with good chemistry. Like we'll call a spade. Joe and Roman tonight was a bad match with good chemistry.
Yes, that's a great way to
Is
put it.
that kind of what you're saying?
So if you want me to say a good Finn Balor match, Finn and AJ, when we got that one-off out of nowhere last fall,
that was
I believe.
so good.
That was great in-ring chemistry, and probably more AJ than Finn in that sense. But the
for
two
crying
of
out
them
loud.
working together, right? That works. For me, Finn and Seth are just whatever. Like I said, I'm over Finn
You're
Balor
out
at
of
this
your
point.
mind.
I'm done. But for some reason, I had those little nitpick doubts about Miz, but you put him in the ring with Seth Rollins, and all of a sudden, the chemistry between those two guys and the match they worked was just fantastic.
Yeah,
So
and sometimes you can blame that on one guy elevating the other guy.
Of
like
course,
I
of
think
course.
AJ's definitely elevated some people he's had feuds with.
Sure.
But that's why AJ is so good, is he can elevate people, and Seth can elevate people. But they're definitely.
If I take
agree.
one positive out of this pay-per-view, that's really what it was, is we got to see 2, maybe 3 matches that had that level of in-ring chemistry between 2 performers.
Yeah, if we could just have these performers in good matches with good chemistry, that would be lovely. So one more thing we want to touch on. We have a new aspect of the show we want to start working on, and this will be part of our plan for the new year.
Yes.
We're going to get even more down this path as we go. But we want to start taking some listener comments and questions on the show. And to that point, I believe you have a couple that you want to bring up, and we can discuss them real quick.
Yeah, Gabriel from the Busted Wide Open discussion group on Facebook mentioned that Tyson Kidd was the one that booked the Seth and Miz match. And I wanted to talk about that. Is it not even the performer's fault anymore? Do we start looking behind the curtain at who's booking these matches that are so terrible that be the reason, and stop blaming the performers?
But this is the thing. So this is a big debate right now, is should we as audience members just be fans and take what they give us and say, was that a good match or not, based on how entertained we were? And what I say to that is, do I go to a movie and just say it was a good movie or not? Do I go, well, I didn't like it this aspect, and that might have been because of the writing, which is this guy, Akiva Goldsmith, let's say.
Yep.
And but I love the direction by, let's say, Steven Spielberg, right? I'm going to talk about the people involved in the production of that movie, because that is what gave me the final product. So when people say just sit back and be a fan and don't think about who put these matches together, I say that's part of what I watch it for, is who put together this show, who's involved in every aspect, who's got their fingerprints on this match. Not just the people in the ring working and doing the actual spots, but the people who told them what spots to do or discussed with them what spots to do. Who's all involved in this? That's part of the creative process, and it's part of what I enjoy about any creative product, is who was involved, what did they bring to it, what is their artistic addition to this.
Well, before the internet and IMDb and forums where we could all talk about this stuff, you would usually go to the bar with your buddies in the early 90s or whatever and talk about what movie or what wrestling pay-per-view you watched, right? It was the internet and the openness of all of this newly available information that we now have access to for all forms of entertainment, whether it's professional sports, whether it's professional wrestling, whether it's movies and entertainment. All of that stuff is now just so readily available that it becomes part of your judgment of a product that you're entertained by.
Exactly.
So it's status quo for today. There is I can't just go watch Avengers and go, that was a fantastic movie. No, I'm going to talk about the performances by the individual things. And
I'm even curious about
who did
the special effects. What did
Yes.
which scenes did Weta do? Which scenes did Digital Domain do? Like, I want to know that to be able to judge their performance as a special effects group. And that's maybe just me being a nerd, but everyone's got their own level of involvement they want to get. You know what I mean? Like, there was the WWE Backlash card paper that they had in the office in WWE was leaked this week. So I know that Arn Anderson produced the Jeff Hardy Randy Orton match. I know that Jamie Noble and Dean Malenko did Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. John Laurinaitis did Charlotte Flair versus Carmella.
Well, that explains a lot.
Jamie Noble solo did AJ Styles Shinsuke. So I know who's involved in this. Now, do I know the level of involvement? No. Do I know that Michael Hayes did Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe, and I can take the booking of that match and put it against the booking of Seth Rollins and The Miz, which was done by, as you said, Tyson Kidd, and say, okay, well, what did he bring to the table for this match? What did the performers bring to the table for this match? Obviously, there's still a lot we don't know. We don't know how much input Michael Hayes had. We don't know if how much of a producer brings to each match and how much the agents and the performers bring their creative ideas. There's still a lot we don't know. But we can sit here and say, like, for instance, Road Dogg is now the booker on SmackDown Live.
Yeah.
How much of his input is causing certain SmackDown Live booking decisions to be bad? He's just the figurehead out there, and a lot of people go after him on Twitter because we know that. I think that more transparency would actually help in the long term. WWE and a lot of their performers are like, just sit back and be fans. And I'm like, no, tell us who did this stuff, because then it's going to be actually a lot easier for us to digest some of these matches and not, be mad at Roman Reigns if we feel like these people are responsible for bad decisions made tonight. It actually might help certain aspects of the product.
That's what I was going to say, is that there's fans and then there's super fans. And if you can cater to both, you're doing a good job. And that's always through transparency.
Absolutely.
And you go from being a fan and just watching the show and then changing the channel when it's over to being a super fan, to being involved in social media, on all the forums, all the other stuff that's the auxiliary content. Those are your super fans. Steer into that with transparency.
And look at how much people love to just digest tons of stats. Look at football, where people can get down and tell you.
I'm a baseball guy. There are no more stats in any other sport than baseball.
Because there's nothing else to frickin' do with that sport. Nothing else to do but sit there and run stats.
10 minutes between pitches.
That's what I'm saying. Most boring sport in the world.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It is classical elegance.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So, Gabriel, thank you for the question.
Ballet is classical elegance. Baseball is the time to drink beer and eat hot dogs and not watch what's happening. Anyway,
you compared ballet to baseball. Okay.
I did.
Gabriel, thank you for the comment there. We're interested in some of that, the dynamics of who's going to be booking what, and the ultimate how that leads to the outcomes of the matches as well.
I've seen some better ballet performances in baseball.
Okay, this is going to go on for a while. Next up, we had Derek asked a question regarding the no DQ rules and how we still ended up in a 10-10 count in the AJ and Nakamura match. If it was a no DQ match, how can you do that?
I might go to see some ballet after this podcast, actually.
Can we discuss what the actual no disqualification rules are, and should, in a no disqualification stipulation match, can you have a situation where both superstars don't answer the 10 count?
So there's nothing to say that you can't, and that's up to the referee to determine that. I mean, a no DQ match is the same thing as a no holds barred match. It means that you can do anything, including weapons, although technically it is a match that implies less weaponry than, say, a hardcore match.
Right.
But because they don't really want to use the term hardcore in WWE.
Maybe a street fight.
Or a street fight, you assume there's going to be a lot more weapons.
Yeah.
WWE doesn't want to use hardcore these days, so no DQ is what it becomes. But it also tends to imply it's going to be a wrestling match. Just you can use a lot of holds that are illegal. You can, like, it used to be, you couldn't use closed fists. Okay, no DQ, you can use closed fists.
Yep.
You can't break a submission move by grabbing the ropes, for example. But in a situation where both guys are down, the match has to, it's not one of those things where we can just leave them down until, someone gets up. That's one thing that I think they should change about the last man standing match is the double count out. Like last man standing should be first in that situation, first guy to his feet, and then the other guy's down for 10, and that's the end of the match. But they've made it now you can have two guys be out in that. I personally think that as far as the no DQ, that this is actually well within the rules. It's just a bummer of a way to end it. The one way to have changed it would, if it was like an I quit match or something like that.
Or a last man standing.
Or a last man standing with a no double count out stipulation. So I want to say that that this is not the best ending for this match, but it's well within the rules and the guidelines of the style of match that they could do it. I just think it's a dumb way of doing it. Obviously, the rules are whatever they say they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's been matches where they just change them. Oh yeah, Brock's back hit first, so that whole foot thing, whoever get the feet down first.
Yeah, don't mind that.
Forget it. Don't worry about that. Never mind. So it's, I don't know. I would love to see, as far as AJ and Shinsuke going forward, I think that there are still lots of places that they can go. We've had the no DQ. We can still have a cage match. We can still have Hell in a Cell. If we really want to go all the way out, we can have.
I've said before this is going to run all year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it culminated in a Hell in a Cell match in October.
I'd be fine with that too. Yeah. We could have an I Quit match.
Yeah.
An I Quit match right now after this one might actually be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
So there are places they can go. It was a disappointing finish for this show, but they're trying to run a long program with these two. At least it seems that way.
I hope so.
The unfortunate thing is we've had 3 matches in a month, and that was way too fast to have those 3 matches.
I agree.
There should have been a longer build for each one. Now, hopefully we can get some breathing room before Money in the Bank and have another match at Money in the Bank that makes sense, that builds the feud, that has an added level of tension. We'll see what happens next.
I agree. Well, guys, thank you very much for the questions. Gabriel, Derek, if you have yours, be sure to head over to the Busted Wide Open discussion group on Facebook. We'll look for our posts. We'll put them up on our episodes when we're going to record, which don't miss this week's weekly show on Thursday. We'll be recapping all of the events of Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, NXT, 205 Live.
And I'm going to talk wrestling Dontaku from New Japan because, my God, it was awesome. If you need a palate cleanser after Backlash, go watch that because it was awesome. I won't spoil anything here in case you do want to go watch it, but some big stuff happened.
You've got till Thursday.
And if you're a fan of WWE, then it actually, there's some stuff you might be interested in as well. I'll throw that little nugget out there. And your boy over here was a prophet. Some stuff happened and no one else called. But I'm pretty happy with myself. I feel very prophet-like. Bam, bam, bam.
Pew, pew, pew. Well, hey, guys, definitely come join us in the Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter at BWO Podcast. And, hey, if you like what we do, we would love your support. Head over to patreon.com/BWO. Throw a couple of bucks in the tip jar or sign up to do your very own promo right here on the show with Ian and myself. If you want to rock some sweet swag to let everybody know that we are your favorite wrestling show, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/store to pick up some sweet swag, t-shirt, hoodie, phone case, coffee mug, stickers, all that good stuff.
And make sure you go to your podcast app of choice, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if there is one, hit a 5-star button if there is one. Give us some comments, some feedback. Let us know what you like about the show, what you'd like to see us change, what we can improve on. We love getting good constructive feedback.
Hey, there's a new site out there they're dubbing the IMDb for podcasts called podchaser.com. Definitely head over there and check that out for us as well. But I'm Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God, somebody stop the damn match!
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.